high-level contracted employee. This is someone who should, at the very least, know the rules of what he's supposed to be doing.
They're busted. They got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. I mean, that's exactly what happened here. When you see the video focused in on the sideline, for as long as it was, 8 to 10 minutes, they're saying focused on there, you can't just write it off as, hey, we were just obtaining extra footage to add as fluff to our lovely documentary, do your job. No, this serves a purpose. They're trying to get signals. They're trying to get substitution groupings. And the way you do that is to stay fixed on a tight shot with that sideline. Coach's box right there with the players. They're busted. It's just a matter of now, how much trouble are they going to be in from the NFL?
All right, moving on now. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills picked up a big win on Sunday Night Football, beating the Steelers 17-10. Buffalo trailed 10-7 entering the fourth quarter, but pulled it out, and in so doing, were able to secure their second playoff berth in 3 seasons under head coach Sean McDermott. Nick, you were on the Bills making the playoffs from very early on. You and the Bills were probably the only ones. How big of a win was this for Buffalo?
This is a great win. To go on the road into Pittsburgh, a potential other playoff team, and win the way they did. Defense dominating. Now, poor Duck Hodges had a game to forget for the Steelers. But for the Bills now, if they had lost this game and they haven't clinched the playoffs, and then next week they're in New England, all of a sudden a team that had started with such promise could be facing a Week 17 win and you're in, losing you're out scenario. Instead, they're locked in, and they can present real problems for teams who know how limited their passing attack is, but the rest of the team, coaching staff, defense, running game, very, very good.
My man Duck was throwing some ducks. That's too easy, but it's true. It's what was happening out there. I have a more important question for you. How are the Steelers favored in this game? Because they were favored by 1.
Man, the home
and I'm sitting
team,
there looking at, I guess, but still, I think the Buffalo Bills are a considerably better team, and they showed it last night. And I'm telling you, if Lamar Jackson was not having the season he is, I think more people would be talking about Josh Allen and what he's doing at the position. I'd still like to see him develop more, and he's not the passer that Lamar Jackson is.
And Josh wasn't very good yesterday.
No, he wasn't. But he's streaky. He's streaky hot. He's tough to defend.
Better for Josh, though, that the attention's off him this year.
Oh, for sure.
All right, on to the Cowboys now, who beat the Rams by 23 points yesterday. Big win for the Cowboys, who were led by Zeke's 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dallas ran for 263 yards as a team. Nick, how impressive was this win?
I'll be very quick here. It was very impressive, but it also didn't change my opinion of them at all. It did show you what they could have been throughout the season had they been better coached, had they been more dedicated to the best player on their team, Ezekiel Elliott, and had the defense played up to its, I would say, contracts and its standards. None of those things happened the first 13 weeks. It was good to see them happen in the 14th game, but it doesn't change my opinion of it.
I'm a very optimistic person. I try to look on the bright side of things. If you're a Cowboys fan and you want to grab onto some hope, you could see, hey, this team is getting right at the right time. Now, that could be the case that's happening, but we have a whole body of work over the entire season where they have shown flashes of games like this, but there is no confidence that I have moving forward they can continue on this type of play.
And I'd feel better about that if in the previous few weeks they had shown flashes of this. Instead, the previous few weeks was maybe their worst stretch of football all season long.
In those games, they had opening drives, and that was it. And then they collapsed.
Absolutely.
All right, the Philadelphia Eagles were in Washington for a divisional matchup. Let's jump ahead to the fourth quarter. Game tied at 24. Carson Wentz fumbles, leading to a Washington field goal, but Wentz would respond on the next drive, leading Philly right down, capped off with a touchdown to Greg Ward Jr. To who? Yeah, Greg Ward Jr. First career touchdown for him. Eagles win it 37-27. For Carson Wentz, he finished with 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Here he is after the game.
Team's resilient. And team's resilient. We realize, our backs are against the wall just like last week, and it's do or die right now, and make or break, and guys stepped up and kept making plays. And guys, through the good, the bad, the ugly, guys just kept believing.
6 times.
You
6
love that
cliches
presser,
in one sentence.
That's what you're supposed to do as a franchise quarterback. Don't give him any controversy.
Clearly.
Stay out of trouble.
Nick, let's start with you on this one. You think yesterday changed your opinion at all on the Philadelphia Eagles?
No, I still think they can win the division, and obviously they can. They win at home next week in Dallas. They will. They've still been wildly disappointing this season, but that was a huge moment for Carson Wentz, and that's what I want to focus on. Wentz Now, the last few weeks, the team has not played well, and you could argue he hasn't played great overall, certainly in the Giants game, and then in this game, once again, with another fumble, an issue that he's had throughout the season. But much like the Giants game, at the very end, he orchestrated a drive down the field, tie the game against the Giants, and then to win the game in overtime. In this football game, he had a fourth-quarter drive to seemingly, you thought, to take back control of the game, and then one to win it. 11 plays, 75 yards for the win, culminating there, given all the noise surrounding him. And I would say the importance for him for his career, that he gets some playoff experience this year, even if it's really bad playoff experience, just to actually get the feeling of that week to better position them for next season. This was an important win. And for a guy who went into the week saying it's not all on me, that it has to be a team effort rather than me just put the team on my back, that Eagles defense didn't play great yesterday. He did kind of have to put the team on his back late, and he was able to do it. So I think for Carson, it's a very important moment.
It was a massively important, and as was down 17-3 against the Giants, who were awful, and bringing them back there. The 2017 season where he was MVP, Carson Wentz, before he got hurt, and of course before Nick Foles came in, that seems like it was a decade ago, right? And I'm sure to a lot of Eagles fans, they're waiting to say, where's that Carson Wentz, right? And you're wondering, hey, what impact the ACL injury could have had on him. He needs more and more moments like this, where he is starting to resemble more and more the quarterback that he was in 2017, and that is a great sign for Eagles fans. I think he's very, it's funny because we worry about Lamar Jackson getting hurt. The way he plays the game, Carson Wentz does, I'm worried about him getting hurt. And he has a history of being hurt. I still think he tries to play a little bit too much of the hero ball. Like every single play, I can make something of it. And the quicker he learns, throw it away, take a sack, the better off he will be. And that's a process. But as far as getting back to that form, these last 2 weeks have been a massive step in the right direction for Carson Wentz.
Big win for the Eagles and a good time for Wentz to be playing well. Sets up a great matchup next week against the Dallas Cowboys.
And Jenna, before we move on, a moment of silence if you had Washington +6. My God! My God, you folks, that was a tough one.
I was nervous that I missed out on something huge.
My God.
It was just gambling, of course. On to the Patriots now, who are in Cincinnati looking to get their offense back on track, or just on track, really. 34-13, the final behind 2 touchdown passes from Tom Brady. Patriots get the win. Their defense was back to wreaking havoc, forcing 5 turnovers, including a pick 6 by Stephon Gilmore. Pats clinch a playoff berth for an NFL record 11th straight season. But, Nick, from what you saw yesterday, how far can this team really legitimately go in the playoffs?
If they are fortunate enough to get a bye, which if they lose next week to Buffalo, they won't. And the way they're playing right now, that is absolutely in play. They lose to Buffalo. They could win. If they don't get a bye, they could beat Pittsburgh in round 1 or the Titans in round 1, sure, and then promptly get beaten by either Baltimore or Kansas City, whomever they play in round 2. That is who and if they do get a bye, they'll lose in round 2 to Kansas City. This was 10-10 when the Patriots are punting with 1:40 left in the first half. And the Bengals do what bad teams do. They have a chance to go into the half feeling good about themselves, so let's muff the punt. Now we go into the half trailing. The Patriots had one drive that was at least 50 yards yesterday. And once again, by the way, credit to Josh McDaniels or whoever's coming up with that opening script for them. Because against Kansas City, opening script touchdown. The previous game against Houston, opening script, opening drive, they drove 80 yards. They settled for a chip shot field goal. This week, opening drive, touchdown. And that was the only extended drive of it's 10-10 in their punting. Here's how they score their next 3 times. Muff punt field goal, interception short field touchdown, pick 6 touchdown, and onside kick short field touchdown. Tom Brady was bad again, erratic again, and the offense once again looks like a major weakness headed into the postseason.
I'm with you. I think they have one playoff win and then they're going to get bounced because teams that make deep playoff runs are balanced. You have to be solid on both sides of the ball, or you have to be all-time great on one side of the ball. You think back to the Ravens winning
Sure.
with their, all-time great, and you have pedestrian quarterback play. I think the Broncos defense was all-time great with Von Miller and company when Peyton Manning was not that great. This offense has issues, and I know a lot of the conversation is going to surround, well, is it Brady regressing? Is it because he's getting older? I think that has zero to do with it. I think it is the weapons that he is working with. The offensive line has struggled, and sure, he's not as mobile, but show me a time in his career when he was running around making plays. Never. He's not done that. And here's the problem I have. When you look at the box score and you see the leading wide receiver is a running back in James White, and they're trying to create offense different ways. Last week it was trick plays, a flea flicker. That was how they generated offense. They don't have many options as far as skilled players.
But a lot of that's the quarterback. Like, you can't, the idea that this is just the pieces around Brady have fallen apart. Man, he is missing guys. He is skipping passes. Yesterday, he throws the ball 29 times for 128 yards, and 23 of those, his longest pass of the day was a dump off to James White, and James White navigated down the field for a 23-yard touchdown.
But you know who had less weapons than Tom Brady yesterday? Carson Wentz. Had no weapons yesterday.
But now he is mobile.
Protection.
And he's more mobile. He can run around and make plays. But this team...
I mean, whose fault is that? Like, look at some of these, though. Some of these are... I mean, I'm just... That guy's wide open.
He is. For Tom Brady, that's a
touchdown.
Absolutely is.
Now, this one, again, that's a drop, but that's also low behind him instead of being a touchdown. Watch these. I mean, who's that to? That's not the receiver's fault. Who's that to? That's not the receiver's fault.
Now these guys, this one's open. He's got to put a little bit more air under that so that he can catch that.
On.
Some of these, there's not very much separation. This bounce pass, no excuse for that when that's on Brady. When you do see, though, this offense has issues. Yes, Tom Brady is a part of them, but I think we focus too much on him as opposed to the pressure. And like if you want to make any quarterback in the history of the game pedestrian, you get pressure on them. And you remember when Sam Darnold said, I'm feeling ghosts? That's what I think is happening because their offensive line has struggled. I think some of those, Tom Brady might be feeling pressure that's not really there because he's not getting consistent protection, which he has got.
And because I do think he's being extra cautious during the regular season of not taking punishment because he's 42 years old, because he knows he has to be available for the postseason. And I defend him on that. I think that's smart. That's like an in-game load management.